Look what finally came in the mail. Alphacore Issue 1 for the Rippaverse. And I got a second copy signed by the legendary Chuck Dixon. DC, Marvel, be afraid. Be very afraid. This is officially legit now. I mean, not that it wasn't before. You know, Eric July, like I said, he had all odds stacked up against him that this was even going to happen. It happened. It was a massive hit, and he wasted no time in getting into Isom issue number 2, now this, and now there's like an actual schedule. Like Yaira issue number 1 is coming out this winter. Good Ying issue number 1 is coming out in the spring, and that's going to be penned by Mike Barron, which is awesome because he actually used to write some of the Nexus comics from like the 90s. Chuck Dixon, of course, he's written like several Batman comic books. He wrote the Robin series and like Robin 3, Cry of the Huntress. Legendary, seasoned comic book writer. And guys, I'm not going to lie to you, it shows. Absolutely no offense to Eric July whatsoever. I said from the outset that like Isom issue number 1 and issue number 2 really, he threw a lot at you. He threw all these characters at you, and you're reading just this sequence of events not fully sure what to make of it because you're just like, oh, okay, this person looks like they might be interesting, but who are they? And now he has like a lineup, and he can just start releasing. And now he's got, again, some like seasoned veterans on this now. I actually enjoyed this comic book a lot more than I thought I was gonna. And don't get me wrong, I expected it, being penned by Chuck Dixon, I actually expected it to be, you know, like obviously like a step above. But I actually really enjoyed the characters in this. You have, you know, Brian Solari, who's sort of kind of a little bit reminiscent of Superman. He, you know, has superhuman strength. He can fly around and stuff like that. He's ex-military. And Alphacore is essentially, they're a group of accepts, that's what they call superheroes, that are kind of working in liaison with the police because people are really like iffy about accepts and their involvement with like day-to-day human life. And Brian is sort of the one who doesn't follow the rules because if he sees somebody, you know, in real time committing a crime, he doesn't care if they're an accept or not. He'll go ahead and stop it and save everybody. And that pisses like, you know, everybody off, including his partner, Ingrid Valdez, who, you know, is very like kind of by the book, and she's yelling at him all the time about, you know, his being reckless and careless with everything until she gets pissed off about things. There's also Braxwell, who they didn't do as much with, but he seems to pretty much have all the powers that Brian Solari does. But at any rate, they introduced some really cool villains in this as well. There's, I don't want to give away everything, but there is a dude who, you know, basically he can control lightning and electricity and stuff like that, but it's sort of like a drug. He's like a cokehead kind of. As with Isom issues number 1 and 2, this is a very sturdy comic book. I mean, you know, a lot of money goes into the production of these. Once again, it really is more of a graphic novel than a comic book. The illustrations are outright beautiful. I mean, there's that like lightning guy I was telling you about earlier. It's just beautifully illustrated, and the story has really taken off. And the comic book industry, the mainstream comic book industry, has really been taking a hit lately because they have a bunch of purple-haired cancel pigs like running it. And I've been watching all sorts of videos. Ryan Cannell, Yellow Flash, Nerdrotic, Geeks and Gamers, sometimes those all kind of blend in together for me. But the comic book industry, they really anticipate is going to take a huge pummeling in 2024 because the movies, honestly, kind of had it on life support for a while, but now the movies suck and the comic books are just absolutely ridiculous. And Chuck Dixon himself wrote like a little excerpt in the back of this book, basically complimenting Eric July and what he's been doing and why. You know, and basically talking about like I mean, he doesn't go into great detail, but he refers to, and I'm paraphrasing here, you know, the horrible mistakes that the comic book industry are continuing to make these days. And he's very happy to see that there's somebody with like passion and you know, really loves superheroes again. And I mean, the two of them apparently really, you know, get along. They work very well together. He says that Eric July is very fair. So we're probably going to see him return for Alphacore Issue 2. And, you know, like I said, now you got Mike Baron on board. There's been tell of, I believe it was the creator of Deadpool, I could be mistaken, who has been lashing out at comic book companies. Who the hell knows? Maybe he'll be, you know, maybe he'll be the next guy, you know. But even Mike Baron writing Gooding. Gooding he came off as a very quirky character in Isom Issue 2. He's basically like this dude who sort of runs his own security company. He's like an uber capitalist, and every time he goes in to put out a fire or something like that, he leaves his card. Packages start at $49.99 a month, private security, all sorts of shit like that. And it's kind of quirky. And so was Nexus, which Mike Baron wrote. And I was like, that's a brilliant idea. That's a brilliant idea. And I know that we have people clamoring to see Bloodruth, and me personally, like Norfolka, I'm really excited about that. This is really kind of like rejuvenating in a lot of people. And I think that that spirit of comic books. And I think that some people who were kind of just going along with everything they were hearing, everything that was being thrown at Eric July, like, you know, oh, he's a horrible person and his readers are terrible people. They hate everybody and da-da-da-da-da. And now they're kind of hearing about it, and now they're seeing like legitimate, you know, like known comic book writers starting to join the crowd, and I don't see this going anywhere but up from here. I really, really enjoyed this one. I'm very excited for Yaira, because if Isom issue number 1 tells us anything about their dynamic, these guys follow the rules and Yaira does not. So looking forward to that, and thank you guys for tuning in. That's all she wrote.